My chosen one, something happened last night and heaven is shocked that you are the only one who did not see it. Yes, you. While you were sleeping, while you were distracted, while you thought everything was normal, a spiritual shift took place around your life. Conversations were happening about you. Decisions were being made concerning your future. Movements were unfolding in the unseen. And yet, you woke up this morning unaware. God says, only you are blind to what happened last night. This is not to shame you. This is to awaken you. Because what took place was not small. It was not random. It was not ordinary. It was strategic. And it carries consequences that reach into tonight, into 11:59 p.m., into a deadline that heaven has marked. Before tonight ends, you must understand the hidden truth. Listen carefully. Last night, something that was trying to delay your progress was exposed. A pattern that has been repeating in your life was identified in the spiritual realm. A cycle that kept draining your energy was brought into the light. But here is the painful part. You are still behaving as if nothing shifted. You are walking today like yesterday was ordinary. But it was not. There was a conversation in the unseen concerning your house, not just the physical building, but your environment, your circle, your inner atmosphere. A presence that does not belong was highlighted. A truth about someone close to you began to surface. And heaven is saying, why are they not seeing it? You have been sensing something, haven't you? A strange feeling, a slight discomfort, an intuition that something is off. That was not your imagination. That was God trying to alert you. But distraction has been loud. Doubt has been louder. And comfort has been the loudest of all. You have been blind, not because you are foolish, but because you trusted too easily. You ignored small signs. You excused certain behaviors. You told yourself, it's nothing. It is not nothing. Last night, clarity was released. A veil was lifted. And the reason this message is urgent, very urgent, is because if you ignore this window before tonight at 11:59 p.m., you may walk into tomorrow still unaware and miss your final opportunity to act with wisdom. This is your final chance to know the hidden truth. God is not shouting to scare you. He is speaking firmly because time-sensitive mercy is active right now. You have been praying for revelation. You have been asking for confirmation. You have been saying, Lord, show me what I need to see. He did. Last night. But you did not recognize it. There was a dream you brushed off. There was a thought that crossed your mind. There was a sudden urge to question something. That was not random. Heaven was pulling back the curtain. And here is what makes this even more intense. The truth that was revealed is not only about others. It is also about you. There is a habit you must release. There is a boundary you must set. There is a decision you have delayed. God says this is the moment. Because someone around you is preparing to move in a direction that will impact your peace. And if you stay blind, you will call it unexpected. But heaven is saying, we warned you. The urgency is not about fear. It is about preparation. Between now and 11:59 p.m. tonight, you must pause. Reflect. Ask boldly, God, what did I miss? And then listen, without defending anyone, without defending yourself. The hidden truth is closer than you think. It may be in your own home. It may be in a message you overlooked. It may be in a pattern repeating again. Do not scroll past this as coincidence. This message reached you for a reason. Many people will ignore it. Many will say, this is dramatic. Many will move on carelessly, but you stop it. And that tells me something inside you already knows. God would not call this your final chance if it were small. You would not set a time boundary if it were optional. He would not say, "Open this immediately," if delay was safe. Something is shifting. And in the next moments, you are going to begin remembering signs you dismissed. Words that did not sit right. Energy that felt strange. Silence that spoke too loudly. This is not paranoia. This is discernment waking up. And what you do before tonight ends will determine whether you step into clarity or continue in comfortable blindness. Do not rush away. Take this seriously, because the hidden truth is not coming to destroy you. It is coming to protect you. And once you see it, you will never be the same again. Beloved soul, now the silence is breaking. You felt it earlier, didn't you? That small stirring in your spirit after hearing what was revealed. That is not emotion. That is awakening. And this is where it becomes even more serious. Because once awareness begins, responsibility follows. God is saying that what happened last night was not just exposure. It was separation. Something began to detach from you spiritually. An influence that had been hovering around your decisions started losing its grip. But here's the danger. If you remain passive, it can attempt to reconnect. You must understand this clearly. Some battles are not loud. They do not come with chaos and drama. They come quietly, through subtle manipulation, through energy shifts, through small compromises. And you have been tolerating something that heaven already rejected. Last night, a line was drawn. You may not have seen angels moving. You may not have heard a voice. But in the unseen realm, permission changed. Access shifted. What once had easy entry into your peace was suddenly restricted. And now God is watching to see if you will cooperate with what He already started. This is why tonight before 11:59 p.m. matters. Because heaven initiated something. But you must align with it. There is a conversation you need to reconsider. There is a person whose words you need to replay in your mind carefully. There is a pattern of behavior you keep excusing because it feels familiar. Familiar does not mean safe. Comfortable does not mean ordained. And here is the truth that might shake you. You were the last one to see what everyone else already sensed. Others noticed the imbalance. Others saw the shift in loyalty. Others questioned the inconsistency. But you defended it. You protected it. You kept saying, "They didn't mean it like that." God is not asking you to become suspicious of everyone. He is asking you to become honest with yourself. You prayed for protection, but you resisted perception. Protection often begins with perception. Last night, your spiritual eyes were nudged open. There was a memory brought back to you. A red flag from months ago resurfaced in your mind. That was not random nostalgia. That was divine replay. God replayed the moment so you would finally understand it. And now you have two choices. You can dismiss this message as emotional intensity, or you can sit with it and ask, what exactly shifted around me? Do not underestimate the timing. There are hours left before midnight. Hours where clarity can either deepen or disappear again under distraction. And distractions will try to come. Notifications. Random conversations. Sudden tiredness. Anything to pull you away from reflection. This is strategic. Because if you fully see the truth, you will make a decision. And that decision will change your direction. Some of you will need to set a boundary tonight. Some of you will need to withdraw your energy. Some of you will simply need to stop over-explaining yourself to someone who already chose not to understand you. This is your moment of alignment. Let me say something important here. If this message is resonating with your spirit, if you feel that confirmation rising inside you, do not stay silent. Engage with this word. Like this message so it can reach others who are also blind to what happened last night. Share it with someone who needs awakening. Comment what you are beginning to realize. Subscribe and become part of this growing family of discernment. When you support this channel, you are amplifying a voice that refuses to let people sleep through divine warnings. Do not underestimate the power of your interaction. There are people scrolling right now who are one decision away from walking into confusion tomorrow. Your simple action could place this message directly in their path. Now come back to this moment. Feel the seriousness, but do not feel fear. This is not about punishment. It is about preparation. God would not call it urgent if it were too late. The urgency means there is still time. You are not late. You are being alerted. And something else must be said. The blindness was not complete darkness. It was partial vision. You saw pieces but refused to connect them. You sensed inconsistencies but avoided confrontation. You felt distance but kept pretending everything was normal. That pretending ends now. Before tonight reaches 11:59 p.m., you will either choose clarity or comfort. And comfort hath been expensive for you lately. The hidden truth is not far. It is already forming in your thoughts as you listen to this. That name that just crossed your mind. That situation that suddenly feels heavy. That unresolved tension you keep brushing aside. Pay attention. Because what you acknowledge tonight will determine the peace you wake up with tomorrow. And what unfolds next will make everything even clearer. Hold steady, because the deeper layer of this revelation is about to surface. Faithful heart, lean in closer now, because what is about to be uncovered is the layer you were not ready to face before. Last night was not only about exposing someone else. It was about exposing a truth within you that you have been avoiding. God says you have been praying for elevation, but secretly tolerating what keeps you small. You have been asking for clarity, but protecting confusion. And when heaven began removing scales from your eyes, you felt discomfort and called it stress. It was revelation. The reason you were blind is not because the signs were invisible. It is because the truth required courage. Seeing clearly would mean making a change. And change disrupts what feels stable, even when that stability is false. Last night, something in the spiritual realm recorded a shift in your authority. You were being tested silently. Not by chaos, not by noise, but by discernment. Would you notice what felt off? Would you question what did not align? Would you finally admit that your spirit has been uneasy for a reason? You cannot carry hidden truth into a new season. God says this is your final chance, not because He is cruel, but because cycles are closing. What you refuse to confront tonight will become heavier tomorrow. What you ignore today will demand attention later in a more uncomfortable way. And here is the deeper revelation. Someone close to you is not operating with the same heart you are. Their words sound supportive, but their energy does not match. Their presence feels normal, but something about it drains you. You keep explaining it away, saying they are just stressed, just busy, just misunderstood. But last night, something pierced through that illusion. You felt it in your chest. You sensed distance in their tone. You replayed a recent interaction in your mind and realized it did not sit right. That was not overthinking. That was awakening discernment. God is not telling you to accuse. He is telling you to observe. There is a difference between love and naivety. There is a difference between grace and self-betrayal, and you have been confusing the two. This is why the message is urgent before 11:59 p.m. Because once the day ends, so does a window of heightened spiritual sensitivity. Right now, your perception is sharper. Right now, heaven is amplifying your inner knowing. If you ignore it tonight, it may become quiet again under routine and distraction. You ask for truth. Truth is here. The hidden truth is not only about who is around you. It is about how you have been diminishing your own instincts. You have doubted yourself too quickly. You have trusted others over your inner warning too often. And that pattern stops here. Last night an assignment against your confidence weakened. But if you keep second-guessing what you feel, you reopen the door. God is saying, see what I am showing you. Do not soften it. Do not exaggerate it. Just see it. There is freedom in clear vision. There is power in acknowledging reality. And there is protection in acting wisely before consequences unfold. You are not crazy for feeling what you feel. You are not dramatic for sensing tension. You are not negative for questioning inconsistency. You are awakening. And awakening always feels uncomfortable at first. Between now and midnight, sit quietly. Ask direct questions in your spirit. Revisit the moment from last night that seemed small. A look, a silence, a dream, a sudden thought. Let it surface fully. Clarity will not shout. It will settle. When it settles, you will know exactly what needs to shift. And as this truth lands in your heart, I want you to seal this moment with intention. Type "My eyes are open" in the comments if this is speaking directly to your spirit. Lesson code 444 is now activated over your discernment and protection. Heaven is marking those who respond with awareness. Now hear this final encouragement before we move deeper. You are not being exposed to be embarrassed. You are being enlightened to be a power. The truth does not come to break you. It comes to free you from silent traps. If this message has pierced your heart and you feel the weight of its urgency, understand that this word is reaching thousands who are standing at the same invisible crossroads. When you release super thanks, join membership, or so through the PayPal link in the description, you are not funding a channel. You are sowing light into dark corners of someone else's life. God says, as you give, it shall be given back to you, pressed down and overflowing. This is your moment to act in obedience. I feel led to stand with this mission and push this word further. Every seed becomes oil that keeps this lamp burning. Every offering becomes a trumpet that wakes another soul before their midnight hour. Do not hesitate. Step into this prophetic flow and give as the Spirit moves you. The awakening has begun, and what unfolds next will confirm everything your spirit is starting to see. Chosen vessel, now that your eyes are beginning to adjust to the light, the next layer must be revealed carefully. Clarity is powerful, but it is also delicate in its early stages. When vision first returns, everything can feel overwhelming. Colors look sharper. Details stand out. Things you once ignored now seem obvious. This is where many people panic and retreat back into comfortable blindness. But you will not. Because what happened last night was not temporary illumination. It was a divine intervention. God is saying that a hidden truth is connected to a turning point that has been forming for months. You thought certain delays in your life were random. You thought opportunities that slipped away were unfortunate timing. You thought repeated frustrations were just bad luck. But heaven is showing you that some of those closed doors were protection. You were about to invest deeper into something unstable. You were about to trust someone beyond the level they had earned. You were about to commit your energy to a direction that would have quietly drained you. And last night, the trajectory was interrupted. The reason you could not see it immediately is because interruption rarely feels like a blessing in the moment. It feels confusing. It feels inconvenient. It feels like something did not go as planned. But what if the plan you were following was incomplete? God says you have been operating with partial information, and partial information leads to misplaced loyalty. There is someone who benefits from your silence. There is someone who thrives when you doubt yourself. There is someone who feels secure as long as you remain unaware. This does not mean they are plotting dramatically against you. It means their comfort depends on your blindness. When you begin to see clearly, dynamics shift. Notice how certain reactions around you have subtly changed. Notice how energy feels slightly tense. Awareness disrupts hidden arrangements. And this is why the urgency remains strong. Between now and tonight at 11:59 p.m., you are standing in a spiritual checkpoint. God is observing whether you will follow through with what has been revealed. Awareness without action creates frustration, but awareness followed by courage creates freedom. You do not need to confront anyone aggressively. You do not need to announce your realizations. Sometimes the most powerful move is internal. A quiet decision, a silent boundary, a shift in how much access someone has to your thoughts, your plans, your vulnerabilities. Last night, you were shown that not everyone celebrating you is aligned with you. That truth hurts, but it also protects. God is not removing people from your life recklessly. He is refining your circle intentionally. You are stepping into a season that requires sharper discernment because your calling is expanding. And expansion cannot coexist with hidden sabotage, even if that sabotage is subtle. There is something else you must understand. You have been underestimating your intuition for a long time. You have labeled it anxiety. You have dismissed it as overthinking. But what if it was spiritual sensitivity? What if you were sensing undercurrents long before events confirmed them? Last night was confirmation. It was the moment heaven said, "Now you see." But seeing clearly will require emotional maturity. You cannot react impulsively. You cannot swing from blindness to suspicion. Balance is key. Sit with what you know. Let patterns speak louder than isolated moments. If inconsistency hath been consistent, that is not coincidence. If respect has been conditional, that is not misunderstanding. If your peace decreases around certain interactions, that is data. God is not asking you to judge harshly. He's asking you to evaluate honestly. And there is one more layer. Part of the hidden truth involves your own fear of being alone. You tolerated certain dynamics because you feared losing connection. You feared starting over. You feared conflict. But what you did not realize is that staying blind costs more than standing alone. Tonight before midnight, something inside you will settle. You will either decide to continue pretending, or you will quietly step into alignment with what God revealed. If you choose alignment, you may feel temporary discomfort, but you will also feel a strange peace, the kind that comes when you stop betraying your inner knowing. That peace is your confirmation. And as we move forward, the next revelation will not only expose what happened last night, it will show you why it had to happen now. Because timing is never random. And heaven's clock is still ticking toward something far greater than you imagined. Brave heart, what you are stepping into now is the part most people avoid, because it demands honesty without excuses. The hidden truth is no longer just about what happened last night. It is about why it was allowed to happen at this exact moment in your life. Timing is everything in the spiritual realm. Nothing is exposed too early, and nothing is revealed too late. And God says this was revealed now because you are standing at the edge of a breakthrough that cannot carry hidden weight. You have been praying for expansion. You have been asking for elevation in your finances, your relationships, your purpose, your influence. But elevation requires purification. What is hidden must be brought into light before promotion can be trusted to you. Last night was a purification point. Something that has been attached to you quietly was losing its grip. A subtle influence over your decisions was being dismantled. You may not have seen it with your physical eyes, but you felt a shift in your spirit. Perhaps you felt restless. Perhaps you woke up briefly at an unusual hour. Perhaps your sleep was interrupted by thoughts you could not ignore. That was not random. God was allowing you to sense that a cycle was closing. For a long time, you have tolerated mixed signals. In one area of your life, things looked supportive. In another, something felt slightly off. You convinced yourself that no relationship or situation is perfect. That is true. But imperfection and misalignment are not the same thing. Misalignment drains you. And if you look honestly, you have been more tired than you should be. Not physically exhausted from work, but emotionally drained from navigating undercurrents, from reading between lines, from trying to maintain peace where tension quietly lives. The hidden truth is this: you have been carrying more than your share in a dynamic that was never equal. Last night, heaven highlighted that imbalance. God is not accusing you. He is strengthening you. Because once you see imbalance clearly, you stop overcompensating. You stop explaining yourself repeatedly. You stop pouring into places that never refill you. And this is where the real test begins. Now that you are aware, will you adjust your behavior? Or will you continue to give access at the same level as before? Awareness without boundaries creates internal conflict. You will start feeling frustration if you do not honor what you have seen. Between now and the closing of this day, something small may happen to confirm everything. A tone, a delayed response, a subtle reaction. Do not ignore it. Confirmation often comes gently after revelation. You are not meant to confront aggressively. You are meant to observe calmly. There is power in silent clarity. And here is something deeper that God wants you to understand. The reason you were blind before is because your heart is sincere. You tend to see the best in people. You assume loyalty because you offer loyalty. You expect honesty because you value honesty. That is not weakness. That is purity of heart. But purity without discernment can be exploited. Last night was the merging of your purity with discernment. You are not losing your kindness. You are gaining wisdom. And wisdom will change how you move. You will speak less about your plans. You will guard certain dreams until they are stable. You will watch actions more than words. You will notice energy shifts without immediately dismissing them. This is growth. The urgency before 11:59 p.m. is about sealing this growth with intention. Make a quiet decision tonight. It may not be visible to anyone else. It may simply be a shift in how much emotional access you allow. But that quiet decision will mark the beginning of a new pattern. You are not meant to carry hidden tension into your next season. Something is about to open for you. An opportunity. A Ganetian. A breakthrough that requires stability. And if the old dynamic remained hidden, it would have complicated that blessing. Not expose it before it could contaminate what is coming. That is mercy. You may feel a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief because clarity feels freeing. Sadness because seeing clearly sometimes changes how you feel about certain people. Allow both emotions without guilt. Clarity does not mean hatred. It means awareness. As the hours move closer to midnight, reflect quietly. Ask yourself where you have been shrinking to maintain peace. Ask yourself where you have been ignoring subtle disrespect. Ask yourself where you have been doubting your instincts. Then choose differently. Because what unfolds next will reveal how this hidden truth connects to a larger assignment over your life. And once you see that connection, you will understand why heaven refused to let you remain blind any longer. Precious soul, now the message turns toward your future, because what was revealed last night is directly connected to where you are being led next. You thought this was only about exposure. It is not. It is about preparation. God says you are entering a season where your voice will matter more. Your decisions will carry greater weight. Your influence will stretch beyond what feels comfortable right now. And influence requires clarity. If you remain blind to subtle misalignment, the expansion ahead would become complicated. Last night was heaven protecting your tomorrow. You have been under quiet observation in the spiritual realm. Not in a threatening way, but in a purposeful way. Your consistency, your resilience, your faith when things felt delayed, all of it has been seen. And because you did not quit in your frustration, you are now being trusted with deeper insight. But insight always comes with responsibility. There is a pattern you must break before stepping into what is next. The pattern of ignoring your inner check. The pattern of minimizing your discomfort. The pattern of convincing yourself that you are overreacting when something feels off. You are not overreacting. You are perceiving. And perception is a gift you must steward carefully. The hidden truth from last night is teaching you how to read what is not spoken. It is sharpening your awareness of tone, of timing, of subtle shifts in consistency. You are learning that alignment is felt as much as it is spoken. This will protect you in the days ahead, because there is an opportunity approaching you that looks promising on the surface. It will appear exciting. It will seem aligned with your prayers. But if you have not fully embraced the clarity given to you now, you may rush into it without evaluating the people attached to it. Discernment is not only about avoiding harm. It is about choosing wisely. God says you are being upgraded in wisdom. And upgrades feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel slightly distant from someone you once felt deeply connected to. That is not cruelty. It is recalibration. You may feel less eager to share personal details. That is not coldness. It is protection. You may feel more observant and less talkative. That is not insecurity. That is maturity. Do not apologize for growth. There is something else you must hear clearly. The blindness you experienced before was seasonal. You was allowed for a time because you needed certain lesson. You needed to see how dynamics unfold when you give freely. You needed to experience imbalance to recognize equality. But that season has ended. You are no longer meant to operate with limited vision. Tonight before 11:59 p.m. marks the sealing of that old chapter. Take a moment before this day ends to consciously release the version of yourself that tolerated what did not feel right. Speak it quietly if you must. Decide internally that you will not override your discernment for the sake of comfort again. Because what is ahead requires sober boundaries. And let me pause here to say something important. If this message is stirring something deep inside you, you not just absorb it quietly. Engage with it. Like this message so it travels to others who need awakening. Share it with someone who has been questioning their own intuition. Comment what you are realizing in this very moment. Subscribe and become part of this community that values spiritual clarity. When you interact, you are not just supporting a video, you are helping spread awareness to those who might be one decision away from remaining blind. Hold on, because what comes next ties everything together in a way you may not expect. The reason the urgency feels intense is because tonight symbolizes a threshold. It is less above a clock striking midnight and more above an internal crossing. When you wake up tomorrow, you will not be the same if you fully receive this. There is strength forming in you. The kind of strength that does not argue loudly but stands firmly. The kind of strength that does not accuse but observes. The kind of strength that walks away quietly when peace is disturbed repeatedly. God says you are being refined, not isolated. Some connections may feel different after this revelation. That is natural. When vision changes, perspective changes. And when perspective changes, behavior follows. Do not fear that shift it. Because what is aligning for you next will require a version of you that sees clearly, trusts wisely, and moves intentionally. The hidden truth was never meant to break your heart. It was meant to fortify your future. And what unfolds next will reveal the deeper spiritual reason this exposure could not wait any longer. Steadfast one, what you are about to understand now will explain why the pressure around you has felt heavier in recent weeks. It was not random tension. It was resistance. Whenever clarity begins to rise in your life, anything benefiting from your confusion starts to feel unstable. You may have noticed subtle shifts recently. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel slightly strained. Energy that once felt warm now feels measured. This is not your imagination. Last night marked a spiritual exposure, and exposure changes atmospheres. God says there was a covering over your perception that has now been lifted. That covering allowed you to coexist peacefully with certain inconsistencies. It allowed you to ignore subtle disrespect. It allowed you to overextend yourself without questioning reciprocity. But once that veil was removed, your spirit began registering everything differently. This is why you may feel more alert today. You are not becoming suspicious. You are becoming aware. And awareness makes hidden motives uncomfortable. There is someone who grew accustomed to your unquestioned loyalty. They grew comfortable knowing you would not challenge their inconsistencies. They relied on your patience to avoid accountability. But now something in you has shifted. You are quieter, but stronger. You are observing more, but reacting less. You are present, but no longer unaware. That shift is powerful. Last night, heaven intervened because your next season requires sharper alliances. You cannot carry passive agreements into an active calling. You cannot bring blurred vision into a space where decisions will affect more than just you. There is an assignment forming around your life. You have felt it in subtle ways. A pull toward something greater. A sense that your current environment is temporary. A quiet knowing that you are being prepared for more responsibility. What greater responsibility attracts greater complexity. God needed you to see clearly before stepping forward. The hidden truth is not only about who may be misaligned. It is also about recognizing where you have been shrinking yourself to maintain harmony. You have avoided speaking certain truths because you feared disruption. You have downplayed your growth because you feared making others uncomfortable. But growth cannot apologize for itself forever. Last night was a turning point where heaven said, "It is time. It is time for you to stand internally aligned. Time to stop negotiating your peace for the sake of temporary comfort. Time to acknowledge when something feels off without rushing to excuse it. You may notice that your tolerance for certain behaviors has decreased suddenly. That is not moodiness. That is maturity. What once seemed minor now feels significant because your awareness has expanded. This expansion is not accidental. There is something ahead that requires you to trust your instincts quickly. A decision will come soon where hesitation could cost you opportunity. The clarity you are developing now will be essential then. God is training your discernment in advance. And here is a truth that may surprise you. Not everyone around you is meant to walk into your next chapter. Some were seasonal companions. Some were learning exchanges. Some were mirrors reflecting lessons you needed to understand. But seasons change. Holding on to expired dynamics blocks new alignment. You may feel sadness as this realization settles. That is natural. Letting go of illusions can feel like loss, even when it is protection. But remember this: clarity is an act of love toward yourself. God says you have given enough chances where change never followed. You have waited long enough for consistency that never stabilized. You have explained your boundaries more than necessary. Now the shift is internal. You do not need dramatic exits. You need steady adjustment. Between now and midnight, pay attention to how your body reacts in certain conversations. Notice where tension rises. Notice where peace settles. Your body often confirms what your mind tries to rationalize. Last night activated your sensitivity again. And sensitivity is not weakness when guided by wisdom. Something else is happening beneath the surface. As you become more aligned internally, opportunities that match your clarity will begin to approach. You may receive unexpected communication. You may feel drawn toward a new direction. You may sense doors opening that previously felt closed. That is not coincidence. When misalignment is exposed, alignment accelerates. But you must not rush. Let the clarity root itself deeply. Do not swing from blindness to impulsiveness. Balance awareness with patience. Because what unfolds next will reveal how this hidden truth connects to a greater spiritual timing that has been orchestrated long before last night. And when you see that full picture, you will understand why heaven insisted you open this before 11:59 p.m. Awakened One, now we arrive at the deeper spiritual layer behind everything that has unfolded. What happened last night was not isolated to one conversation, one dream, or one sudden realization. It was part of a larger spiritual recalibration. God says there was a silent agreement operating in your life that you never consciously signed, but you slowly accepted through tolerance. It was an agreement to settle for partial honesty, to settle for half effort, to settle for relationships that required you to shrink, to settle for opportunities that looked good but felt slightly heavy. That agreement expired last night. In the unseen realm, a permission was revoked. The access that confusion had to your decision was cut off. And because that shift was spiritual first, you are now catching up emotionally and mentally. This is why everything feels clearer, but also more intense. Clarity can feel overwhelming when it first arrives because it reorganizes your entire perspective. You are revisiting memories with new understanding. You are connecting dots that once seemed unrelated. You are recognizing patterns that repeated quietly. And here's the truth that may hit you deeply. You were not blind because you lacked intelligence. You were blind because you hoped things would improve without confrontation. Hope is beautiful, but hope without boundaries becomes self-neglect. God is restoring balance inside you. There is someone who sensed your awakening before you even spoke about it. You may have noticed a subtle shift in their behavior recently. Slight defensiveness, slight distance, slight overcompensation. When dynamics change spiritually, they are felt emotionally. Do not let that intimidate you. Your clarity is not an attack. It is alignment. And alignment sometimes disrupts comfort for those who benefited from your previous silence. The urgency before 11:59 p.m. is about sealing this new agreement with yourself. You are stepping into a covenant of honesty within your own spirit. No more overriding red flags. No more explaining away repeated patterns. No more abandoning your intuition to keep peace. Peace that costs you your discernment is not real peace. Last night was heaven honoring your prayers for growth. But growth demanded exposure. Exposure demanded courage. And courage is what you are building right now. There is also a prophetic timing attached to this shift. A window is closing, but another is opening. The relationship, opportunity, or environment that was misaligned could not move with you into what is coming next. It would have slowed you down. It would have created confusion at a critical moment. God intervened early. You may not see the full benefit yet, but you will. Soon, a new connection will enter your life that feels different. It will feel calm, consistent, clear. You will not have to decode mixed signals. You will not have to question loyalty repeatedly. That connection will mirror the clarity you are embracing now. But you cannot recognize healthy alignment if you are still attached to familiar dysfunction. That is why this had to happen now. Between now and midnight, take a quiet moment alone, even if it is just a few minutes. Close your eyes and mentally release the old agreement of settling. Speak inwardly that you choose clarity over comfort, truth over illusion, discernment over denial. This is a sacred internal decision. And as you make it, something in the spiritual atmosphere will finalize. The confusion that lingered around you will begin to dissipate. Your thoughts will feel lighter. Your direction will feel steadier. You are not losing anything essential. You are shedding what could not honor your growth. If this message has pierced your heart and you feel the weight of this turning point, respond boldly. Type "I walk in clarity" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 818 is now activated over your discernment, your protection, and your next season. Heaven is marking those who align with this shift. And as this clarity settles, understand something powerful. This message is reaching people who are standing at similar crossroads, unsure whether to trust what they sensed last night. When you release Super Thanks, Joy membership, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are sowing into awakened vision for countless souls. God declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." Your giving becomes light that exposes hidden traps in someone else's life. I feel led to stand with this mission and fuel this trumpet of truth. Every seed becomes fire that keeps revelation burning. Do not delay obedience. Move as the Spirit nudges you and give boldly into this assignment. The recalibration is complete, and what unfolds next will show you how this clarity positions you for a breakthrough you did not even see approaching. Warrior of light, now you are standing in the aftermath of revelation, and this is where true transformation begins. Clarity has settled in your spirit. The fog that once blurred your perception is thinning. But this stage is delicate, because once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. And what you do next determines whether this awakening becomes empowerment or regret. God says the hidden truth was not only about protection from others. It was also about restoring your self-trust. For too long, you have outsourced your judgment. You looked for validation before honoring your instincts. You asked others what they thought before admitting what you already knew. You delayed decisions because you feared being wrong. But last night proved something important. Your spirit sensed correctly. That uneasy feeling was accurate. That pause in your chest was a warning. That repeated pattern was not coincidence. You were not confused. You were cautious. And caution without confidence feels like blindness. Now confidence is being restored. You may notice that you feel calmer today, even if certain realizations sting. That calmness is alignment. When truth and intuition finally agree, peace follows. It may not be loud joy, but it is steady clarity. However, there is still a final layer to understand. The reason this exposure felt urgent is because something is approaching quickly. A decision, a shift, or a conversation will surface sooner than you expect. If you had remained blind, you would have responded from habit, and now you will respond from awareness. This changes outcomes. God says there was an unseen trap hidden in familiarity. It was subtle. It did not look dangerous. It looked routine. But routine can become a cage when it prevents growth. Last night, the cage door opened. Now you must choose whether to walk out. Walking out does not always mean dramatic separation. Sometimes it means emotional detachment. Sometimes it means reducing access. Sometimes it means observing instead of volunteering information. Small shifts create powerful boundaries. You are not required to explain your awakening to everyone. Not everyone will understand your clarity, and not everyone needs to. Some people will sense the shift and test it. They may probe for old reactions. They may try to trigger familiar patterns. They may act as though nothing has changed. But you will know. And because you know, you will not respond the same way. This is growth in motion. There is also a blessing hidden in this entire process. By exposing misalignment, God is creating space for acceleration. The energy you once spent managing subtle tension will now be redirected toward your purpose. The mental space once occupied by overthinking will become creativity. The emotional energy once drained by imbalance will become strength. Exposure creates capacity, and capacity invites increase. You may soon receive an unexpected opportunity that requires confidence. You may be asked to step into a role where your voice matters. You may be presented with a choice that tests whether you truly trust your perception. When that moment comes, remember tonight. Remember how the piece is connected. Remember how your intuition proved accurate. Remember how God refused to let you remain blind. Because what is ahead will reward discernment. There is one more important truth. Forgiveness and clarity can coexist. Seeing the truth does not require bitterness. You can release illusion without holding resentment. In fact, the strongest position you can stand in now is quiet peace. You see clearly, but you do not carry hatred. You understand patterns, but you are not consumed by anger. That balance is spiritual maturity. Between now and the closing of this day, affirm internally that you trust what you have seen. Let your mind settle into agreement with your spirit. Do not reopen doors of doubt by replaying old justifications. This was not imagination. This was not exaggeration. This was revelation. And revelation always comes with purpose. You are stepping into a chapter where alignment will matter more than approval, where peace will matter more than popularity, where discernment will matter more than emotional comfort. The blindness has lifted. Now the path ahead is clear. And as the final moments before midnight approach, something powerful will seal this transition in a way you did not expect. Stay attentive, because what happens next will confirm that this awakening was divinely timed and absolutely necessary. Determined soul, you are now approaching the edge of this urgent window, and what you choose in these final moments before midnight will echo further than you realize. The clarity you have received was not meant to stay theoretical. It was meant to become action. Not loud action, not dramatic action, but intentional action. God says the hidden truth from last night has now fully surfaced in your awareness. There is no more confusion about what felt off. There's no more uncertainty about the pattern that kept repeating. There is no more denial about the subtle imbalance that drained you. Now the question is simple. Will you honor what you know? Because knowing without honoring creates internal conflict. You will feel restless if you try to return to the old dynamic as if nothing shifted. You will feel tension if you ignore your instincts again. The discomfort will not be punishment. It will be a reminder that you have outgrown blindness. Here is strength forming in your silence. You do not need to announce your boundaries publicly. You do not need to confront every detail immediately. Sometimes the most powerful shift happens when you quietly change your access levels. You stop oversharing. You stop volunteering emotional labor. You stop chasing clarity from someone who never intended to provide it. Last night was about exposure. Tonight is about decision. The urgency of 11:59 p.m. is symbolic of a closing cycle. When the clock resets, so does your perspective. If you fully receive this revelation, tomorrow will not feel the same. You will walk differently. You will listen differently. You will evaluate differently. And this difference will protect you. There is also something prophetic in this timing. The very area where you experience subtle confusion is the same area where breakthrough is preparing to enter. But breakthrough cannot coexist with denial. God had to remove the veil before releasing increase. You are being positioned, not punished. The old version of you would have brushed off this entire message and continued as usual. But the new version of you feels the weight of it. You recognize the precision. You sense that this is not coincidence. That awareness is growth. And let me pause here, because if this message has been walking with you step by step, if it has confirmed what your spirit sensed last night, do not remain a silent observer. Like this message so it reaches someone who is still blind to their own warning. Share it with a friend who keeps doubting their intuition. Comment what shifted for you today. Subscribe and stand with this movement of discernment. When you engage, you amplify a voice that refuses to let people miss divine timing. You become part of spreading clarity before someone else's midnight moment arrives. And trust me, what unfolds next ties everything together in a way you will not want to miss. Now return to this moment. You are not losing control. You are regaining it. There may be a final confirmation before midnight. A message that feels slightly revealing. A silence that speaks louder than words. A reaction that confirms everything you sensed. Do not chase it. Simply observe it. Confirmation often arrives softly. God says you have been given enough evidence. You do not need dramatic proof. You needed inner conviction, and that conviction is forming now. There is peace in accepting reality, and there is power in adjusting accordingly. You will not respond with anger. You will respond with steadiness. You will not accuse recklessly. You will adjust wisely. That shift alone changes your entire trajectory. The hidden truth was not sent to create chaos in your life. It was sent to prevent greater chaos later. You are stepping into a chapter where alignment will open doors effortlessly, where you will not have to fight for clarity, where communication will feel natural instead of confusing. But first, this closing act had to happen. The blindness has lifted. The exposure has occurred. The awareness has settled. Now the final moments approach. And what seals this transition before midnight will mark the beginning of a stronger, sharper, more discerning version of you. Anchored spirit, the hour is almost complete, and something sacred is happening inside you right now. This is no longer just about what happened last night. It is about who you have become because of it. There was a version of you that survived by adapting. by adjusting yourself to fit others, by overlooking small discomforts to avoid larger conflicts. That version was not weak. It was trying to preserve connection. But preservation without truth slowly erodes confidence. Tonight, that erosion stops. God says the final layer of this hidden truth is about identity. When you were blind, you questioned yourself often. You replayed conversations and wondered if you were too sensitive. You minimized your instincts and elevated others' opinions above your own discernment. You carried silent doubt. But now something has shifted permanently. You are beginning to trust your inner voice again. That trust is sacred. It is not arrogance. It is alignment. There is a reason the message insisted you open this before 11:59 p.m. Because once midnight passes, a new internal contract begins. You are crossing from tolerance into discernment, from confusion into clarity, from reaction into intention. This crossing is quiet but powerful. You may feel a strange calm settling over you. Even if certain truths were uncomfortable, there is relief in no longer pretending. There is strength in no longer negotiating with what you clearly see. God says you have matured in a way that cannot be reversed. You will no longer chase explanations from people who offer inconsistency. You will no longer beg for clarity from those who prefer ambiguity. You will no longer silence your intuition to protect someone else's comfort. The chapter is closing. And here is something deeply important. You do not need revenge. You do not need confrontation fueled by emotion. The greatest shift you can make now is internal detachment from what drained you. When you detach emotionally from confusion, it loses its power. Last night revealed what needed to be revealed. Tonight seals what needs to be sealed. There is also a spiritual exchange happening. As misalignment leaves, alignment is being prepared. As confusion exits, precision enters. As doubt fades, confidence strengthens. You are not ending something empty-handed. You are gaining wisdom. Soon, you will notice opportunities approaching with greater clarity. You will feel less anxious when making decisions. You will sense alignment faster and reject misalignment sooner. This is not coincidence. It is the fruit of this awakening. And let this settle deeply in your heart. You were never crazy for sensing what you sensed. You were early. You felt it before it was obvious. You noticed shifts before they were confirmed. Now confirmation has arrived. The final minutes before midnight are symbolic of completion. Completion of denial. Completion of hesitation. Completion of Hindu. You are stepping into a posture of quiet authority. Authority does not shout. It stands firm. It does not over-explain. It moves intentionally. God says you are ready. There may be one final emotional wave before the clock turns. A moment of sadness. A memory of how things used to feel. Let it pass without clinging to it. Nostalgia can tempt you to reopen doors that wisdom has closed. Remember why clarity came. Remember how it felt to constantly question yourself. Remember the relief you feel now. You are not losing connection. You are refining it. And what is refined lasts longer. As midnight approaches, speak inwardly one final affirmation. I choose clarity over comfort. I choose truth over illusion. I trust what God has shown me. Seal it. Because once the clock shifts, you will wake up into a new internal landscape. The same environment may surround you, but your perception will be different. And perception shapes reality. You are no longer blind. You are awake. And the final sealing of this message will confirm that this was not coincidence, but divine orchestration from beginning to end. Victorious one, the clock has reached its final moments. and what needed to be revealed has now been fully uncovered. You open this before midnight for a reason. Not by accident. Not by algorithm. Not by coincidence. God says this was a divine interruption. When he declared, "Only you are blind to what happened last night," it was not to accuse you. It was to awaken you before it was too late. And now look at you. You are no longer questioning your instincts. You are no longer dismissing the subtle warnings. You are no longer shrinking to preserve fragile peace. You see. And once you see, you cannot return to who you were before. The urgency of 11:59 p.m. was never about fear. It was about timing. It was about sealing a transition before another day began. Because if you had crossed into tomorrow with the same blindness, the same tolerance, the same self-doubt, you would have carried confusion into a season that requires precision. But you did not. You paused it. You listened. You reflected. You accepted. That obedience matters. God is saying that what happened last night was a spiritual exposure, but what happened today was a spiritual promotion. You passed a test of discernment. You chose awareness over denial. You chose truth over comfort. And because of that, something is shifting in your favor. The person who underestimated your perception will soon realize you are no longer easily influenced. The environment that once drained you will feel different because you are different. The dynamic that depended on your silence will weaken because you are no longer spiritually asleep. This is empowerment. And here is the final hidden truth. The blindness was never permanent. It was temporary protection until you were strong enough to handle the full picture. If you had seen everything earlier, you might have reacted emotionally. You might have burned bridges prematurely. You might have acted from hurt instead of wisdom. But now you are steady. Now you are grounded. And now you are mature enough to see clearly without becoming bitter. That is growth. The midnight hour symbolized closure. And closure has now occurred. The old agreement with confusion is broken. The silent tolerance has ended. The pattern of doubting yourself has been dismantled. From this moment forward, you walk differently. You will trust your instincts faster. You will observe before committing. You will protect your peace without apology. And most importantly, you will not ignore divine nudges again. Because you now understand something powerful. When God says open this immediately, it is mercy speaking. If this message has confirmed what your spirit sensed, seal it boldly. Type "I will not be blind again" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 9595 is now released over your discernment, your household, and your next season. Heaven has marked this turning point. And now, before we close completely, hear this as an extension of everything you have just received. This message did not reach you by accident. It traveled through time, through technology, through unseen resistance to land exactly where it needed to. There are thousands still blind to what happened in their own lives last night. When you release super thanks, join membership, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a platform. You are fueling a prophetic alarm that wakes souls before their midnight hour. God declares, as you sow, so shall you reap. This is your moment to act in alignment with the revelation you received. I feel led to stand with this mission and push this light further into dark corners. Every seed becomes oil in the lamp. Every offering becomes a trumpet of awakening. Do not delay. Obey the stirring in your spirit and give boldly into this assignment. The blindness is over. The truth is known. And you will never walk unaware again.